What does that remind you of? This is my Range Rover. I've wasted 5 years waiting for the perfect time to start a restoration. Well, I'm going for it, and you're going to see every step of the process in detail. I'm not a mechanic or a panel beater, I'm just a guy who loves to drive, and I have to save the car that's been more like a partner in crime than just four wheels. And while I'm at it, there's a little something else in the picture. Okay, there's two more, and yes, I have an addiction, but what the hell, if I don't kill myself, it could just work out great. And the road awaits. Alright, here we go, episode 2. I'm excited. I will start stripping this car today. This lot, I'm going to step out. I had to set this scene while this car was still white. This is classic 80s poster art. Heralded artist, Miss Harumi Yamaguchi. This is a Sid Brack, probably one of the best-selling posters of the 80s. An obligatory can of black aspirin, sorting out Sunday mornings forever. And the Vector, failed American supercar. I had to do this, I love it. Now, before I say anything else, I want to say thank you. This is full time for me, and the response has been incredible. It doesn't work without you, so thank you. The second thing is, since I posted episode 1, 4 friends have come up to me and said, oh, you know, I really wanted this car forever, and then gave me rubbish reasons why they don't have it, or they have it and they're not working on it, or, you know, whatever. I'll say it again, don't miss the point. I wasted 5 years. I could have been touring the continent, you know, blasting my favorite road for an hour on a Sunday, whatever it is. Get the car, work on the car, and ignore the stuff that's in your way. All right, now we're going to take a walk around this thing. I'm going to show you some of the pieces that are missing, some of the things I'm going to have to tackle. Let's do it. Okay, the first thing we have going on is some hairline cracks on the front offside, and I think these ones probably go down as far as the fiberglass. It's obviously had a little bump. There is a mark in the front bumper, and the front indicator is cracked too, as you can see. These ones are much worse than the ones in the back. The ones in the back are, I think, maybe just paint deep. They are probably from us pushing it while one of the calipers was seized and we're, you know, putting too much pressure on the back end. The next thing is the steering wheel. This is from a Series 3 Esprit, and it's almost as rare as the one that's missing from this car. These were often put in because they're about 15mm smaller than the original wheel, and they give you a bit more leg room. I'm going to try and find the original, but at least we have this. It's a good thing to have. Now the gear knob is gone too. It's a lovely little wooden one with a little metal insert that gives you the shift pattern. Gotta find one of those. Gotta find a grip for the handbrake. That's gone. Now this is the dimmer for the panel lights, and somebody's pinched this because they don't just fall out. And the original stereo is a Lotus branded unit. Gotta find that. This is a period one and it's kind of cool, but I would like to have the original Lotus one too because it's on the certificate of authenticity from Lotus, so kind of have to have it. Okay, the worst crime committed on this car, as far as I'm concerned, is a badge that's missing here. It's the mark of the designer, the guy who drew the car. If you have a Golf Mark 1, you should know this guy's name. If you have a Maserati Merc, you should know this guy's name. If you have a Lancia Delta, you should know this guy's name. In fact, here's a list of some of the cars he has designed. And if you could actually read it, it would blow your mind. Look up his wiki. And I've heard his name mispronounced. It's not the easiest, I'll grant you that, but as a guy with a Mediterranean surname, I probably sympathize. He is mispronounced everywhere, even by Esprit owners, and we're some of his biggest fans. So what I've done is I have secured us some Italian lessons. So Miss Annalisa, if we could disturb you, how do we say the name?
Giugiaro.
Giugiaro. Okay, rolling the R. Giugiaro.
Giorgetto Giugiaro.
I can do that. Giugiaro. Okay, one more time.
Giugiaro.
And there you have it. Okay, here we go. I fell in love with this car this time. These are the first bolts turned. The seats bolt straight through the floor, so they're exposed to the elements. But hey, I think this one has had new seat runners. And what did I find? A mouse's nest. Presumably this mouse died cold and alone outside the car because it was too fat to get in. Driver's side not so bad. And that is not a fire extinguisher, I can't imagine. That is a spritz for your face while you bask in the glow of your burning Esprit. The seatbelt receive wasn't plugged into anything on the driver's side, and there was no evidence of something to plug it into, so I'm hoping I find a bit of loom underneath the carpet. There goes the steering wheel, and here is the steering column, which I have released, you'll see in a second. One of these indicator stalks wasn't self-cancelling in one direction. I think turning left it didn't cancel. I recognise these from my days driving minis, so they should be gettable. There's that panel bright switch again, missing. Now things got a little bit awkward under here. You can kind of tell there's a little bit of shake in the camera work. Being in the footwell was awkward enough, but having the camera there too, I had my work cut out. I had no problems here, except for the nut on the clutch master was a 1/2 inch, and guess what? My 1/2 inch spanner is very broken. Here we go with the bonnet. I want to talk about the paint on this car. It's such a shame that it got shabby because it was a really high quality job. You'll see here there's not a millimetre of orange peel on this car anywhere. The light motors came out next, and while I was testing the manual override knob on the back of each one of them stopped working, so we're going to have to look into that. Okay, I descended here into playing with the lights for a second, but here's where I got very excited. This roadkill, it just reminded me of, you know, you go out to your car some morning after having been on a blast, you went to see friends or drove a special road the night before, balmy night, and you've got roadkill in your car, and it just gives you that cool feeling. All right, we're going to leave it there. Next time we will get into the instrument cluster, I think, and take it from there. Okay, it's Range Rover time. And we left it where I had just zipped through the floor to attack the near side sill and get it out. The next thing was to go for the B pillar, the bottom of it, and get the spot welds out so that we could pull the sill. I found some really horrible things going on, but nothing surprises me with this car anymore. So let's go take a look. Okay, here's where we left it. I was drilling out the spot welds on the bottom of the seat bases and then zipping through the floor. I went from there onto the B pillar. It came off pretty easy. It wasn't in bad nick compared to some of the other ones, and I used a nice wide masonry chisel to ease it off the sill. Then onto the outer rear arch, which was in a heap. Absolutely patched a load of times, and look at all these patches here. And to get at the bottom of the C pillar, which is toast as well, I had to take the rear quarter off, and then I removed the wheel so I had good access at the inner rear arch. At this point, I gave up trying to figure out what the thought process was here. This is the remains of the rear body mount, but what is this and what's that, and how were any of them structural? Then I was finally ready to pull the sill out, and you'll probably see in my body language I was not a happy boy. There were patches and just evidence of poor work, and I left that day kind of a bit miffed. So the next day I got into cleaning up the 4 seat base, and then I got into the A pillar, which was savable, just. And you're about to see some welds here. My first welds on this car, kind of my first welds on bodywork, almost. And I didn't set up the welder first, and you're going to be able to see that in these welds. I did revisit them, do not fear. Then it was into the front inner wheel arch, which also had patches, and after that I started cleaning up. You'll notice a few little spatters here. I nicked a brake line, so that's something I have to revisit. And then it was time to make my first template in cardboard, and at that point I was able to cut it out of steel. Now, just to say, I went and bought a €37 sheet, standard sheet, 8 foot by 4 foot, 1.25 millimeters thick of mild steel. My hand was forced. I couldn't afford panels other than the ones I would absolutely not be able to make, and I decided to take a punt in making my own panels, and that is what I have done. So we're going to leave it there, and we will pick it up from here later. I want to look at some eye candy now. I have been, in the last couple of months, to my first ever Cars and Coffee events. And the first one I went to was its inaugural event, Cars and Coffee Dundalk. I couldn't get over the diversity and the calibre of the cars that turned up. And the people weren't so bad either. But I met a couple of good guys, and I hope to get them. I want to get them for more in-depth stuff later on. But for now, I wanted to show you some of the cars that I saw and have a little chat about some of the things that I hadn't seen some of these cars in donkey's years. I'd forgotten they existed. So let's do this.
Darling, our luck is fading. It's a long way to go for nothing. I got a long way.
This beautiful bus arrived. I had to have a good gulp at it, but when I looked in the cab, there was obviously power steering on the column. So I found the guy who owned it, a great guy called Paul, and I asked him, maybe is this a kit that I could get? Here's what he had to say.
No, I put it on myself. It's actually out of an Opel Corsa. The steering, once you lower the suspension, it leaves the steering very heavy in them. But when you pop that baby in there, it just makes a big difference to it.
And how have you lowered it?
It was lowered when I got it.
Is it on the plates?
It's you cut and turn the torsion housings and weld it back up at a different height.
So is that operating now? It is?
Yeah, that's it operating now. Because it's electric, once the power goes to it, you can send it around like that there. So you can move around with 2 fingers. Turn up these bushings, and cut the shaft, put the motor in the middle of it, and make up these bushings, which joins the shaft back to the motor.
Yeah, because I was wondering, because they've lovely steering, like when they're not dropped, obviously.
They're not bad, but they tend to be heavy, you know.
So out of a what year Corsa?
It's what's known as a Corsa B, so I think it's 87, 86, 87, something like that.
And they all no, that would have been an option on a Corsa though, would it?
No, I think it was standard on the Corsas then.
Now I left Paul alone after that because, well, I fairly doorstepped him with the camera and he was a bit uncomfortable. But I'm hoping that's not the last I see of him. There's a man with skills and I'd love to bring him back in another time. Now I met another fella, a guy called Sid. He has an incredible Mirafiori that he restored himself. I'm going to keep him in the bag for probably next episode. But wait till you see this Mirafiori. It is a beautiful thing. It is a credit to him and he's a lovely fella too. Anyway, I'll show you a little bit more eye candy and then we'll get on. And that's it for episode 2. Like, subscribe and share. I can't overstate. The response has been incredible so far. It really has. I've even had my first contributor on Patreon, Colin. Thank you, sir. You are a legend. If you want to join him, the link is in the description. But my uncle Roger, who was the original owner of the Range Rover and who was on his 4th Range Rover, so we will meet him because he's got a great perspective. He got on to say, George, you need to make liking and subscribing foolproof and understandable for me. So, Uncle Raj, that's what the like button looks like. It's on this side below the video, underneath the view count, and it's just a way of giving me a thumbs up and saying you like what I do. This is the subscribe button. It means that you get an email notification whenever I put up new content, so you don't have to come looking for me. I will come looking for you. It's a great thing. You can actually click this one on the screen, but otherwise it's on this side below my name. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Until next time when we do a whole lot more, good luck.